Awesome. What's up, throttlers? Aristotle Full Throttle here, and I'm with Koricon.
Hey!
How's it going? We are going to spoil the heck out of... I gotta mute that. Actually... Yeah, can you just mute the screen? We've got a double feed going on here. It's great. No, here, 1 second. I'll be right back. This is technical. This is the beauty of live streaming. Yeah, cool. And we're back.
Yay!
And awesome. So we're going to spoil the heck out of Halloween for you. And this is the fun of broadcasting from home because you've got all these technical issues. Thankfully today I have an engineer with me.
That doesn't know anything.
But it's you know plenty. You know all there is to know, and all there is you need to know about home streaming. I guess turn up
This?
Yeah. So Koricon, I just got a test to see. I can hear you now.
I think my streaming situation is a lot easier than what your setup is.
I know it must be. I think anybody's streaming situation is way better than this one. But yeah, we're good. It's just I have about 15 windows open.
Wow.
And it looks pretty funny. I should take a screenshot of this and actually send it out to everybody. So Halloween 2018.
Yes.
You saw it. I saw it.
I reviewed it, but my regular review will be going up later today.
Okay. So I'm going to look forward to seeing that. Actually, this is how I prepared to watch it. I watched Halloween 1978 the day before going to see the new one. Because I think, as we know, this is a direct sequel to the original 1978.
Yeah.
They kind of... Now, there's very different, several alternate timelines in the Halloween
Yeah, there's
universe.
a couple of universes. You have H2O, which retconned all of the everything that happened after Halloween 2. Right. I don't know if you can say retcon Halloween 3 just because Halloween 3 is not in the Michael Myers universe that much.
Nope.
If anything, it thinks that it's a movie because they have a clip of the movie showing in the movie.
Yeah.
But it retconned 4, 5, and 6, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
But they kept Halloween 2. So this one did the same thing, but it retconned everything except for the first movie.
Yes. And that was interesting because I do remember when I was a kid watching all of... I think I got up to Halloween 5-ish. And then they just started to get a little bit ridiculous after a minute.
So you didn't see the Paul Rudd one?
I don't think I ever saw the Paul Rudd
Oh,
one.
You gotta see the Paul Rudd one, man. That's when things went super crazy. He was like the chosen child of a cult that was supposed to take out the town, and yeah, I mean they went weird with it.
That is just so weird. Why does Michael Myers... I guess because you have to create you have to elevate the lore for every single movie. So you're going to take this character who's basically the embodiment of pure evil, Michael Myers. That's his motivation. It's just everybody struggles to understand him, but there is no understanding. He is just a force of nature who just is hell-bent on killing.
Well, and so the problem you would have with movies like this, if you do one movie, like the first Halloween in 78, you don't have to explain where he comes from. You don't really have to explain his motivations. He's just this unstoppable evil force. And, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
But if you start doing sequels, people want to know why. You have to answer the question why. And the more sequels you make, the more you have to dive deeper into that why. And so what are you gonna do? Are you just gonna say he's got the psychological problem that he can't feel pain and that he's a sociopathic killer?
Mm-hmm.
And that's it? Or do you give some weird explanation that he's the chosen child of a cult that is supposed to... Yeah, and the the spirit of this whatever it was passes from one generation, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and then that to me actually takes away from it. The more and more you try to explain it with all of this ridiculous stuff, it reduces it and makes it more goofy, when it's just really the thing that about Michael Myers as a villain, as a really just, it's almost not about him so much as it is how people react to evil. And his going around, there's nothing colder than having that expressionless William Shatner mask on him while he's doing these grisly murders. It's very chilling. And,
well, and there's no hesitation.
Yeah.
Like there's pure silence, but no hesitation. He's just this like moving forward constantly. Like in this movie, you have that. So I love like single shot sequences where you have really long unedited shots. Right. And you have that one that starts with the kids that bounce into him, and you see that in the trailer.
Yeah.
And then he walks to the garage, grabs the hammer, walks inside, kills the woman, gets the knife, walks past the baby, goes outside, like all in one single shot, but there's no slowing down for him. Like the idea of killing this woman is nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, he leaves the baby alone, but it's more of like, I don't know, he just seemed kind of like, what's the point?
Exactly. And that's the funny thing about that sequence too, because he kills a kid in, you know, I guess spoiler alert, he kills a kid toward the beginning of Halloween 2018. And then that's creating a suspense when he kills the woman and he's in the house and there's a crying baby in a crib, and he's walking toward the crib and you're like, oh no, you're just gonna kill this baby right now. But of course he walks past it, which is a nice way to just sort of mess with the audience. And
right.
I actually thought that was pretty cool. 1978, you've got Donald Pleasance. It's kind of a career reviver for him too, the Halloween movies. So because he stuck with them for until the 90s. And the thing about the character of Michael Myers, as we were saying before, being the embodiment of pure evil, can really be boiled down to that one sentence that Loomis says, Donald Pleasance's character, where he just says he is just pure evil. He's just, there's no explaining it. He's just has to be stopped. And I mean, that's all the explanation you would need. You wouldn't have to necessarily give him a cult tattoo and all this stuff.
No.
But good on Donald Pleasance for extending his career for another 20 years, basically, on that.
Unfortunately, his last movie was the one with Paul Rudd.
Yeah. And didn't they dedicate it? They dedicated it to him.
They did.
Yeah, I mean, Ernst Blofeld reduced to a Paul Rudd movie. But
like an early Paul Rudd movie.
Yeah,
no,
I mean,
Rudd's...
Yeah, Paul Rudd's great. I'm getting a little flack from the engineering department, saying what's wrong with Paul Rudd.
No,
fair enough.
Paul Rudd is good. This is back when Paul Rudd was not good. This is the first movie he did. He hasn't come into his own yet.
He hasn't Paul Ruddified yet. Yeah. He hasn't become the Paul Rudd we've come to.
It's not that this is 40 Paul Rudd.
He's not the slapping the bass on Paul Rudd that we.
Yeah, he hadn't figured out his ruddiness yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Got there.
He's unruddied.
Yeah,
but
now this is the same kind of problem that you had with all of the other horror icons. You know, Jason started out as not dying. He was just a malformed human.
Yes.
It wasn't until after the third movie that they were just bringing him back to life, you know, the zombie years.
Right. And if we do want to spoil Friday the 13th, it wasn't even Jason. It was his mom.
His mom in the first one, yeah. But the second, like, he didn't even get the hockey mask until the end of the third movie.
That's right. Is that the one with Corey Feldman?
No, that's the fourth one. That's when, after he dies, they bring him back to life. Or that was the fourth one.
Yeah. I've definitely seen all of the Jason movies.
I think it was the fourth one. Yeah, I've seen them all. They kind of blend together. But then You know, with Freddy, it was the same kind of thing where he was dead the whole time, but the first movie was a very dark, serious kind of based off of a nightmare.
Right.
And then they went silly, but then that's why Wes Craven came back and made a new nightmare because he
Part
wanted to
6.
take
Yeah.
it. Yeah, he wanted to take it back to that darkness of his first movie because he wasn't involved with the others. I'm
Right.
seeing that as the same thing as what happened with Halloween. John
Yeah.
Carpenter wasn't involved in any of the movies except for making the first one. And in this one, he's an executive producer. He also did the music. He didn't direct it though, but he was involved. So it makes sense that they would retcon everything after the first one.
Right.
This is his new nightmare version.
Yeah. And that's cool. It seems to be the new modern way of filmmaking is to sort of just forget all of the attempts at sequels and go direct from the last good one, which was what they're doing with Terminator 3. Speaking of strong female leads in movies, they were also proposed to do that with Alien. After it was going to take place, it was going to be Alien, Aliens, and then this next one that Neil Blomkamp was developing with Sigourney Weaver. They were going to just make a direct sequel from that. And then, of course, Terminator, this next one coming out with Sarah Connor or Linda Hamilton is supposed to be a direct sequel to Terminator 2. And then this latest Halloween, direct sequel from the first Halloween, which is the classic, iconic slasher movie, which really created so many tropes for movies like Friday the 13th and
It
opened up the door.
invented, yeah, it invented the slasher film.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I really enjoyed about watching Halloween 2018 is they really leaned into the fact that this is where it all came from. We are going to stay true to this template that was created with Halloween. And I love the fact that even the music, John Carpenter and his kids did the soundtrack. The music is the exact same instrumentation from the 70s. It's as if they just dug up whatever synthesizers they were using. And
I think he just made some new music with the same synthesizer.
yeah, that's what it sounded like. And it was great. It was great.
It was. I loved it. And I also like that, oh man, I'm forgetting his name now, but the guy that played Castle, he had played Mike Myers in the original movie. He didn't play Mike Myers in this movie all the time because he's in his 60s now.
Right.
But they brought in another guy that was like in his 40s or early 50s, and he trained him on his movements, you know, just like with what they did with Chewbacca, you know, train the young guy to do all of the movements the way that he did it, because there's a lot of things in the first movie that he did just naturally that became like part of the character, like the iconic head tilt when the guy was dying on the wall, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
The fact that he would turn his head before he turns to walk, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's all very, I guess that is very much a part of the character and how he moves. It's very menacing and creepy. And speaking of the way he kills people, I mean, of course they pay the tribute to how he nails people to the wall with the knife. Which was cool. I liked the fact that the first time Michael Myers goes into the neighborhood on Halloween, and he just goes into the house without hesitation with the hammer and bludgeons the woman, and then goes right for the knife. And you're like, all right. There were certain tribute moments, very, very fan service moments, I think, but that paid off. Like when he was at the gas station putting on the mask for the first time, when he's picking up the knife again, and he's just going back to
familiar.
It's very familiar, nostalgic. They're playing into that. And I'd say if there was one gripe that I have in general about movies and how they portray the mentally ill, they make it seem like people are in... I don't know. It sort of dehumanizes the plight of mental illness. So when they're showing the people in the yard as if they were animals chained up. I was like, okay, but I get why it works for this movie, but I'm not a big fan of how that's generally done in films. I think that it really does it.
But in this one, I think they were trying to show that all of these people are extremely dangerous. Like, you have to stay behind that line. It's just like what they do with Hannibal Lecter, you know,
Right.
that kind of thing. But they kind of showed later that all of these people are not dangerous, because after the bus crashed, the only person that was really dangerous on the bus was Michael Myers. Like, the rest of them, they found just kind of wandering around. And I think they said in the movie that 2 of them were found holding hands trying to catch butterflies in a market. Like, it's like,
right.
you know, they're not dangerous. He was the only dangerous one.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you need to treat all of them that way if they're... Yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
But other than that, I mean, I think I liked the fact that he is so dangerous that they have to Hannibal Lecterize him. They have to put him in this cage where you're, okay, you cannot even approach, because he will kill you. I did like that they really never show Michael Myers' face, because it's not the point, because he's very much the embodiment of pure evil. And
yeah, they showed just enough so that you would see that his eye has the damage from the first movie.
Right, exactly. So it's definitely him. I'd say that. What did you think of Jamie Lee Curtis?
She was very much of a Sarah Connor, but you could tell she was more traumatized.
Right.
And I can totally get where she is. Like, if you went through something like that as a teenager, it would mess you up for life.
Right.
Like, totally. There were moments where I was like, maybe it's a little over the top, but at the same time, I still understand. Like, you're afraid. Now, I'm wondering if she had gotten like professional help when she was younger, if it would have been better. But I think the whole point of this movie is to show that she was strong. They wanted to make her a strong character that would, you know, have retribution. This is her kind of revenge storyline. But it does mess up her family. You would think if she had kids and she had a family in real life, that she would seek professional help to be able to take care of them, because they would be more important than her revenge.
Right.
But for the movie aspect, her revenge to us is more important than her daughter. I don't care about her daughter. I want to see her go up against Michael Myers.
Yeah, I loved that she was prepared. She actually built a house that she's like, you know, he's going to come after me when he gets released, so I have to be ready. I liked that she was basically, she had learned everything that she needed to learn the first time when Michael Myers came after her. So she had all the rooms with the trap doors.
I loved that. Yeah. I absolutely loved that touch when she first started going through the rooms, and she clears the first room, turns around, hits the button, and that thing comes down. I was like, yes!
Exactly.
Yes!
She just combated every horror movie trope where you look in the room, you don't see anything, you turn around, and then someone jumps out and grabs you. And it's like, nope, she's learned from that.
She's cleared, no one can go in it, no one can come out.
Yeah, and so that was great. I really liked that. I liked the fact that she was searching the closets when she was hiding in a closet. Now she was the one actually searching the closets. I like that when she fell off the roof, landed in the ground, and her body was there. Michael saw it, turned around, looked back, and she was gone, just like in the original.
Now, yes, but with that moment, and I was talking with my brother about this, what I liked about that specific moment was they turned it from when she was a victim, she's been a victim this whole time.
Yes.
To at that moment when Michael Myers turns back and she's gone, the theme music now becomes hers. The theme music plays as she disappeared. And then from the rest of the movie, Michael Myers is the victim. So they're filming it as though he is the victim, and all of the jump scare moments or person in the background is all her, and the
Right.
camera is on him as the victim through the rest of the movie. And so I did love that they changed that around, because you had, after the daughter said gotcha and shot him, and then
Yeah.
you see her face come out of silhouette, the music plays, and she attacks him. And yeah,
Ah, I didn't catch that.
I like how they flipped everything, not just the fact that she is not the victim anymore, but they flipped the music cues, they flipped the filming style, like they flipped everything to make her the predator.
Yeah, I really, that was very much a payoff, because we were watching it last night actually, and it was great. I really enjoyed watching it with a crowd, because a movie like this, you need a crowd. You need to feel that those scares actually go over the crowd. And there were times when, it was a very triumphant moment when she comes out of the shadows and attacks Michael Myers. It's like, all right, this is what we wanted to see. We wanted to see her get her revenge on him. And but it was funny because you can hear people, there was a lot of tension in the crowd when Michael was coming up on the house, and you could just hear people going, "Oh shit. Oh no."
Yeah.
Which was awesome.
Well,
Which is
you
what
want that. Yeah, you want that in a horror movie. You want people to be like, "Oh no." But the thing is, you want people to say, "Oh no," but you don't want them to say, "Don't do that."
Yeah.
You don't want your characters to be so stupid that where you're like, "Why are you doing that?" And we didn't
Right.
have that in this movie. I was very happy
Yeah.
to see that there weren't any characters where I was like, "Oh, you deserve to die because you're that dumb."
Yeah.
Even the teenagers, it made sense. Their reactions,
Mhm.
they weren't doing anything overly stupid to get killed. You
Right.
had the one kid that, it kind of showed that he liked her. He's now like, crap, I'm in this situation. But he just happens to be in the yard where Michael Myers is. So you're gonna die. But it's not
Yeah.
that he did anything stupid to be there.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed that murder sequence. Actually, that was really, really creative, because they had they set up the idea. Oh, it's a motion light, you idiot! And so the
Right.
motion light comes on, and it goes off. It comes on, it comes off, and then Michael's there, and then he's gone. And then the motion lights come on, and you see him coming at him, which is such a great. I've never seen that in a movie, actually. So that was a really cool. That was a really cool use of a common everyday thing, and making it very scary.
Well, like even the babysitter, the babysitter that died, which for one, that kid was awesome. I love that kid.
Which
I
kid though? The one got nailed to the wall.
no,
The little kid. Yeah,
the little kid. Yeah,
I love that
was
kid.
so awesome. Like I would want to babysit that kid just to hang out and like watch movies and stuff. But her death was not because she did something stupid. Her death was just because she was, checking the room
Yeah.
because the kid was scared. She didn't do anything to cause her own death.
Yep.
And I just loved that throughout the whole movie. There wasn't any really dumb characters.
No, you're right. And that kid was amazing. I think that's a star-making performance for that kid. We're gonna see a lot more of that kid, I think.
I want to see more of that kid.
He was just so good, and that's what keeps the movie, keeps the levity. If you're able to laugh and kind of feel that levity, the scarier moments are even scarier, because comedy and horror are very similar in that sense. It's all about timing, and I loved the fact that she was trying to close that closet door, and then opened it, and it's a practical camera trick. It's not even a camera trick. It's just a shot, which is
just
scary.
an angle.
Yeah, and it just works because you don't need to do anything. It's just the psychology of that moment of someone just being behind that door, the boogeyman, as it were.
Now I do think, like I liked the comedy in the movie. Like I think my favorite comedic scene would be the two cops talking about the sandwiches.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Very
love
Danny
that
McBride.
scene. Yes, it is. However, I do have to say that some of the comedic parts did take away from the tension. too much.
Okay, for you?
Yeah. But
Okay.
the thing is, I don't mind them just because I think they were funny enough, like they were good enough that I would still want them in the movie.
Right.
But a criticism would be that the tension that you were building gets diffused too early.
I see.
So the tension he was building in the cop car with the psychiatrist and the girl got totally just killed by that scene with him, and then you had to try and go back to that tension when he
Right.
killed the
I can see
doctor.
that. I can see that.
But
I
I
think,
still love the
yeah.
scene, so I don't want him to cut it. But at the same time, you're minimizing that tension. And the same with the
Right.
babysitter in the closet, because of the humor that was going on, natural banter with them. I liked that stuff, but it does take away from any tension of him being in the closet.
I could see that. I think though the function of the humor, especially for the cops talking about their lunch, was we have to like these guys right away, and then
Mm-hmm.
feel bad that they're going to get murdered. So I
And
think
in
it
an
works.
epic
Yeah.
fashion.
Yes, I mean, very creative to turn the dude's head into a freaking jack-o'-lantern. That's again another new iconic moment for the Halloween series, where you go, okay, that's pretty damn grisly, and I haven't quite seen that yet. And if you're gonna do that in a movie, you're gonna do it in the Halloween movie, which I mean, again, the jack-o'-lantern being the iconic imagery also for these movies, and the opening sequence being essentially the difference, I guess, is this one starts out with the cold open. Does the original start out with the cold open as well? I can't quite remember. Has a cold open, and then the credit sequence is about 5 minutes of staring at a jack-o'-lantern.
Right. No, in the original, yeah. Oh man, it's been a long time since I saw the original.
Yeah,
But
but
yeah, the credit scene for the original was the zoom in of the jack-o'-lantern into the jack-o'-lantern's eye. And
yeah,
in this one, they're showing the revitalization of Halloween by showing the
the reverse.
corrupted, the reverse time lapse of the jack-o'-lantern not decomposing.
Yeah, and that's yeah, exactly. So it's the revival of the series, the revival of yeah, the revival of Michael Myers coming back into the public consciousness, which again I think it works so well because they created the trope, and then since then there's just been so many people trying to reinvent the trope. But then once you go back to the original, you go, oh, this is where it all came from, and this is why it works, and this is
Yeah.
why it's so good. And I did like the fact that there was another thing that I really enjoyed.
Her sitting in the same classroom chair. Her saying.
Oh yeah, again, like what you were saying about Laurie, the saying about Laurie being now the predator. They do switch the role a lot with Jamie Lee Curtis in this movie, where she is standing across the street from the classroom. Darling, thank you.
Yeah, but they weren't. That wasn't really a victim predator switch. That was more of just an optical. Because in the original movie,
Yeah.
it was, him. She was watching her granddaughter basically to protect her. But yeah, they did a lot of those scene swaps.
Yeah.
From the first movie.
Which was again just a visual callbacks to the original, but
Yeah.
now it's a little bit of a reversal, which was pretty cool.
Right. Now I do have some negatives about the movie.
Yes.
The first blaring one is that it's called Halloween.
Again.
And now we have to refer to them as what year they came out.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't give us a subtitle. You don't have to call it Halloween 20, but at least give it some kind of a
H2O.
subtitle. Like Back to Haddonfield. I don't know. Something to where we can because now we have 3 movies called Halloween.
Exactly. I think though, if you look at the decades gone by and how sequels were named, they were very Halloween. They were all just numbers. It was Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Halloween 1, 2, 3. I mean, Halloween did have a lot of subtitles, but then you started to get with these titles. You know, you have Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises. It's a trilogy, but they're not Batman 1, 2, 3. It's just you've got every Marvel movie is just the name of the character with a subtitle. And now I think it's just weird. It seems to be this trend where I don't know if they're trying to start a new trend where you just keep renaming. It's like the Weezer albums are all named Weezer. They're just a different color album color.
Yeah,
So,
you have to end up calling it by the date. You know,
yeah.
you could have called it something like Halloween, Laurie Fights Back. I mean, anything. You could call it anything, just don't give away the ending, I guess.
Yeah.
The other thing is that he escapes the exact same way he did in the first movie. Like, so the beginning,
Right.
except for the bloggers part, but him getting out and getting back to Haddonfield is almost exactly the same as the first movie, down to the bus on the road, you know, the stranger's car that just happens to be at the accident. All of that stuff is exactly like the first movie. I would have liked something a bit different on how he got out.
Yeah, I thought when I was about that point in the movie, my idea was like, I guess this is kind of a remake because they're showing those visual callbacks, and because it was very much similar to the first one where you see people walking around the highway in hospital gowns. You go, oh, okay. I guess they're sort of remaking. They're remaking the original. So there's a lot of revisiting that. There were certain things that I felt. I would say, as far as the acting goes, I really didn't like the one guy, the one reporter, the male reporter. I think he was just a little too.
He was a bit too aggressive.
Yeah.
I didn't even think you needed to have those two. Now, I know why they did it from a story point of view. They wanted to have characters that would kind of tell the audience where we're at.
Yeah.
You know, they're basically narrators for the beginning of the film. But I don't think you need them. You know, they weren't there very long. All they did was give us some, exposition that you could have given another way. And they died. I mean, that's basically.
I was
their
actually
whole
looking
purpose.
forward to them dying.
Yeah. If anything, they didn't do anything stupid to die, like anything like to cause their own death. But I was kind of happy to see them go.
Yeah.
I was pretty much done with the amount of time that we had with them. I just didn't think they needed to be in the movie at all. Like there was nothing that they did that caused Michael Myers to want to escape more. You know, if anything, it was the doctor was helping him escape because the doctor wanted to hear him talk. So the bloggers had nothing to do with that part of the story.
Right.
All they were was audience exposition.
Yeah. They're bringing us into the story that was already going on, really, between the Doctor and Michael Myers. And I found that dynamic interesting with the Doctor and Michael Myers, where the Doctor needed to try to understand the evil, and he was getting sucked into the evil. And I think that's what the prison yard really did illustrate filmically, was that Michael Myers unflinching, yet everyone around him sort of going mad because of the pure evil that he is, and everybody trying to understand him and his compulsion, and the Doctor himself getting pulled into that.
Well, it's our obsession with needing to know why.
Yes.
You know, and the what is so scary about him is he does not care about giving you a why. Michael Myers does not need you to know why. He doesn't care if you know why. And so the fact that you want to know means nothing to him. And it drives everyone around him crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he won't talk. It's like, damn it, talk!
And say something. And I thought it was a little bit... a different twist when the new Doctor shows up, and you're like, oh, this is the new Loomis, and then Jamie Lee Curtis just goes, oh, you're the new Loomis.
The new Loomis.
So she just sort of takes. She's like, yeah, we get it. I'm gonna just call this out as for what it is for everybody. Cause
yeah, it was very self-aware.
Yeah,
I did like that.
That was a good moment, but it set him up to be the new Loomis, which he wasn't. He ultimately wasn't, actually. And the fact that he wanted to wear the mask and he wanted to murder him, like commit murder himself, was just showing that the toxicity of Michael Myers and how he. But they didn't need that line where the Doctor says, "Now I know what it's like." You just explained you wanted to understand what it was like, so we got why you killed. Was it the officer? The
cop. Yeah. It shows that because Michael Myers refused to talk, he's not understanding the obsession of needing to know why was so pervasive in the Doctor's head that it drove him to the point where he wanted to kill just to be able to understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
If Michael Myers had actually talked and told him about what he was thinking, he wouldn't be at that level, you know. And I was a bit worried that they would make Michael Myers say something in the movie, because that was a huge theme throughout, is, you know, trying to make him talk.
Yeah.
And I didn't want them to. I didn't want them to make him. I didn't want him to say anything, and I'm glad that he didn't.
Yeah. I hadn't seen the Rob Zombie ones. I actually had them ready to go. I had them both on video, and I was going to watch the Rob Zombie versions. But then I saw some clips, and I don't know. I'm not sure that it. Have you seen those?
Oh yeah, they're different, and I'll say this. They're good Rob Zombie movies.
Okay.
But don't go into it wanting a good Michael Myers Halloween movie, because the tones are very different styles. Okay. You know, Rob Zombie is more of a shock and like personal. Like they get into why he became the way he did through abuse and stuff. Like they get like really deep into that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I liked it for what it was, but as for like the Michael Myers type Halloween character film, it's not as good, of course, as these two. Yeah. But as a Rob Zombie movie, if you go to it looking as a Rob Zombie fan, yeah, it's a good movie. Okay. You have to separate it. You got to separate it in your head. If you go in wanting a good Halloween movie, you'll be like, nah, this is nothing like Halloween.
Right. Which, I mean, and Halloween 2018, put that in parentheses, Halloween 2018 and the original Halloween, as far as these, it felt very consistent with what a Halloween movie should be. So I really enjoyed that, actually. When I left the movies, I was like, that felt like an updated version of what John Carpenter's original vision was, because it's very of its time. Watching Halloween 1978 a couple days ago, again, because I'd seen it many times when I was very young. Because when you're a kid, I think, I don't know, especially maybe young boys, they're very obsessed with, I was anyway, with Halloween and Friday the 13th and A Nightmare on Elm Street. Those were all I had to watch every single one of those. And Halloween, I think, always maintained a certain integrity as a film, whereas the other ones I felt were maybe just more these sort of popcorn horror, fun B movies. But I mean, Halloween, I think, or the original, maybe still is a B movie, but I think it was still a good film. Like, I think John Carpenter was doing something there that cinema hadn't necessarily done before. And and it stuck around.
It's kind of like, it's the Die Hard of action movies. What Die Hard did for action, Halloween did for horror.
Yeah, it did open up that whole unkillable bad guy situation. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the only other thing I would say about this movie that might be a kind of a negative, I guess, is that there were too many characters. I would
Okay.
have liked more stuff with Laurie Strode, but you kept
Hmm.
splitting the attention up between the teenagers and the mother and the Laurie, and uh,
Yeah.
part of the I think part of the reason is you want teenagers in the movie because teenagers are
Yeah.
what spent the most money, and I like seeing teenagers die because they're very annoying.
Right.
But at the same time, I think between her and the mother and Laurie, you're taking story away from Laurie, which
Yeah.
is, it's supposed to be her closure film. This is where she finally gets closure for this entire thing. And you're taking time away from her getting that. Uh, so
That's true.
I don't know what they would do with that if I was going to rewrite the film. Maybe not have the granddaughter in there at all and just be the mother and the daughter.
Yeah, because there is that story of how her daughter was raised and how she was raised to always be ready for ultimately what was going to happen, which she knew. She knew that if Michael ever got out or when it came time for him to be released, that he would come after her. So she had trained her daughter her whole life, and then the granddaughter. So there was a lot of splitting of attention between those parallel stories.
Well, and her story really didn't have much of anything to do except you're using her again like you did the bloggers as exposition for the audience when you could have used Lori for all of that. It's just in
Right.
the way that we have movies today. People want the young hot chick. They
Yeah.
don't want to look at the old hot chick. Well,
Right.
what's wrong with the old hot chick? I like the old hot chick.
Yeah. It's Jamie Lee Curtis, legendary.
Exactly. So, they, to appeal, I guess, they wanted to have a younger face there, but she really didn't have anything to do in the third act of the film. Like
Yeah.
when everything was going down at the house, they showed two scenes of her running through the woods towards the house. Like that's all she's doing.
Right.
She's not running away from anyone. Michael Myers is already at the house. She could have just stayed put and nothing different would have happened.
Yeah.
Um, it was the story of the mother and the daughter. So I guess if
It
I had
was.
to rewrite it, I wouldn't have the granddaughter in there at all.
Okay. Yeah, and then maybe introduce her more in the next one or something. Because let's talk about the ending.
Yeah, I'm so I'm torn. Okay. I want Michael Myers to be dead
Right.
because this is Laurie Strode's revenge story. This is her closure moment.
Yes.
If Michael Myers is not dead, she did not get her closure, and this movie is meaningless. If
Well,
Michael Myers is dead, you can't have a sequel, but all of your themes that you were pushing in this film still make sense. But they opened it by showing the basement on fire without him in it.
yep.
And I
Yeah, yeah.
think if they did
They
not
ended,
show
yeah.
that if they did not show that scene and you just ended it on him looking up in the fire, and then I would have shown him his clothes catch fire, and then you just leave it there and he doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
You can assume he's dead. I I don't know if I want a sequel because I'm afraid it would take away from this movie.
Well, $77 million is telling you that there will be a sequel because that's how much money this movie made. Second highest opening in October ever. So there's no chance that the producers aren't going to want to capitalize on this in the next couple of years.
So what are you going to do for a sequel? Is she going to get closure again?
Well,
Do you
the
know
thing
what I
is,
mean?
I think though I think she technically can have closure as long as she, if they don't have her in the sequel, they can have the fact that she was
But
there and
how are
saw
you
him
not
die in her mind. So
so he
she's,
just starts killing in another city somewhere?
well,
Like
it's
you
got to be
change the
Haddonfield.
entire location. Yeah, but if see that's the thing. Now
Yeah,
if he's still alive, she doesn't have the closure. And then
right.
you can't not have her in the movie because now in the sequel she's got to get her closure that you set up in the previous movie. Like
Yeah.
it can't end without her getting closure because of the story that they set up.
Yeah. I mean,
It's not like
I
she's going to be like, I got my closure. He's not dead. Ah, someone else will deal with it. Like,
right.
if
No, I
she finds
know.
out he's still alive, she's got to be the one to kill him. She's been
She's
obsessing
definitely
over
going
it
to
for 4
have to come
years.
back and try to murder his
So
face.
how many
Unless
times are...
you have her in it and halfway through she gets killed. And she tries to do it, and then we've got to form an attachment to a new lead character. I mean, I liked...
Yeah, but then that takes the impact away from this movie.
It kind of does on some levels. I mean, I do like... So the original, we all know how it ended. Loomis swoops in and shoots Michael 6 or 7 times. He falls over the balcony, lands in the grass, but then disappears. And I like that ending for the first one, actually, because it does feel like there's something about the boogeyman is going to always be out there. You can't kill the boogeyman. They say that. And so this one, again, there is that integral shot. I loved the imagery of the entire basement catching fire with him just standing there motionless, fearless, and knowing, maybe knowing this is it for him, but not
or just not caring. He's
Yeah.
still focused on her. He just can't get to her.
Yeah, and that's... I mean, there's a couple things in the ending that I liked, actually, that were really cool, sort of breaking the tropes, and also the fact that they got the best of him. And I liked that the daughter, Judy Greer, was like, "Mom, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it." And then he stands in the door. She's like, "Gotcha." And then, so just undoing that trope, which was cool. She's like, "I'm not this helpless person trapped in a basement. I've been trained for this. My mom taught me to do this." And I love that. But it is important to note that there was that one shot of the basement on fire, but it was empty, which it's the way I knew in the moment when he was catching fire. I'm like, they're gonna show something that makes it not definitive, and sure enough, they did.
Yeah, I'm just torn. I'm torn on it because, this whole movie is her closure. It's her story's ending. It's her getting her revenge. But then you're negating it by doing a sequel and saying she didn't get her revenge. She didn't get her closure.
Right.
And then you're not going to have her, and then maybe you kill her off. So now you're saying that her whole story is pointless because Michael Myers is going to win no matter what.
Right. But then maybe you make Judy Greer and the it does feel like they were setting up a generational thing, because there's 3 generations there.
Yeah. Yeah, and there is.
So Michael's just always going to come after that family.
I mean, I'm sure that they're going to do another sequel. I just don't know how I feel about it, because what they're doing with this movie, the whole thing was closure and finalizing and getting your revenge, and now you're saying no.
Yeah.
And you're basically negating the Laurie Strode character. You're saying that everything she went through was pointless. So
I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I think though.
So I'm iffy. Like, there's a part of me that wants a sequel because I love Michael Myers. Whatever. I'll go because it's Halloween. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, well, the themes you brought up in this movie are not sequel worthy. Right. You can't do a sequel if you're trying to do those kinds of storylines. Yeah. So you're shooting yourself in the foot.
So maybe they'll reinvent the wheel again. They'll try to reboot it again. Maybe Michael Myers is...
And that's the thing. If you want to reboot it with all new characters, fine. I'm totally fine with that. But I want Laurie to have her closure. I want her to have her revenge. This is her revenge movie. If you do a sequel, are you going to put it in the hospital where they are at and then reveal that she was his brother and all of, like...
Right. Are you gonna and she becomes Michael Myers. She dons the mask and starts killing everybody.
Yeah, like what do you do with that without negating her motivations?
Yeah. I mean, they could go back to, they can do Season of the Witch again. they could
I would
they
be
can make
down.
an anthology version of the Halloween movies, like John Carpenter's original vision, which I studied more after the Boxleitners sort of filled me in on that. They were saying how originally John Carpenter wanted to make Halloween the anthology. It was just based on Halloween, but different stories every time, like American Horror Story or something. So that, I mean, they could revisit that idea, but the audiences want Michael Myers.
Yeah,
they want to see Michael Myers.
You know, it's like the main complaint for any of these horror movies that do poorly. You know, look at Jason Goes to Hell. Jason's not in it. You know, look at some of the Hellraiser sequels. Pinhead's not in it. You know, what makes it a good movie? They're in it a lot. What makes it a bad movie? They're not in it.
Right. Yeah. And he's definitely the selling point.
Yeah, he is. So I feel conflicted and torn about any kind of sequels. I think I would just rather them reboot it and do a whole new vision of what they want with the character and just leave this storyline alone, because I feel like Laurie Strode got her closure. You kind of leave it just a little open and say the boogeyman could have escaped, but you don't touch on it. You don't talk about it. Let people go crazy trying to figure it out. But I don't want them to negate this movie and take her power away, because that's what it would do. A sequel would end up taking away the power that they gave her in this film.
Right. I can see that. I mean, again, it would have to be written well in a lot of ways. It'd have to, I think, refocus. But I think good writing can generally get me back on board. But I can see how the entire arc of this movie has to do with revisiting her and the core of the whole story.
And you think her 40 years of obsessing over this and building that house, that she didn't know how to secure the basement enough for him to not get out?
Right. Yeah.
Like how did he it's not like he just found the exit of the mine before it exploded. You know, she built this house as a cage to capture him specifically.
Yeah.
And in the last second, he finds a weakness and gets out. It seems like anything you do is going to negate her storyline in this movie. So I've been racking my brain the past couple of days trying to think of what could they do in a sequel that is not going to totally negate this film.
Right. I mean, in a way, I do feel that way about the Terminator series. Terminators 1 and 2 feel like a complete story, and everything after that feels completely unnecessary and has proven to be so and also not good. And now that they're revisiting that about 30 years later, you know, with Sarah Connor, we'll see how that goes. It's just, it felt very complete. I'd have to say though, I did like that Laurie Strode maims Michael Myers in this. She shoots off the two fingers. Which creates it actually elevates the lore in a lot of ways, because if we do ever see Michael Myers come back, we're going to see this. We're going to have to see that he's actually Michael Myers. He's got the eye wound that she gave him, and now she shot two fingers off. So, I don't know. I thought that was like a nice little touch. Like, oh, okay, now we've got an actual physical characteristic that we can distinguish without him having the mask on.
Yeah, and it shows that he can be hurt.
Yes.
You know, which makes him even more scary, because
that's exactly it. Yeah.
You know, he's not like a supernatural dead guy. He can be injured. You just have a really hard time killing this guy.
Yeah, he's just so hell-bent. He's so focused, and he's so friggin' crazy and doesn't speak, doesn't seem to...
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he feels pain, but somehow he can work through it.
The thing about these sequels that are retconning the bad movies, you know, what they did with what they're going to do with Terminator and they did with this one. I really think you only can have one movie. You can only have one movie to come in, retcon, close. You're not going to create a whole new series of 10 more sequels.
Right.
You know, if you want to do that, you have to reboot it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to complete the story and give some satisfying closure with characters that you love, then you can come back and retcon, but you only get one movie to do it.
Right.
So that's another reason why I'm afraid of them doing a sequel to this one in this universe.
Yeah.
I would prefer they just reboot it with new characters.
Yeah. Because this could be a nice way to bookend that first movie. You got the first one, and then this one, and then that story is done.
Exactly.
And it feels complete. Like Terminator's
it does.
1 and 2. Yeah.
Well, and if they do, you know, if they retcon the Terminator movies, they do a third one. If they can have a satisfying closure and make it feel like a trilogy,
right,
I would be fine with that. But don't make this movie thinking you're going to get 2 more sequels beyond that.
Yeah,
you only get this one movie to do it, and then you say what you need to say and you end it there. But don't plan on doing another one after that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, because the rights actually reverted to James Cameron, and that's why this one's being produced by James Cameron.
He wants to do a trilogy.
He probably does. He probably. Oh, do you mean beyond this, or he just wants to?
Yeah, I think his original plan is to do a new trilogy, is a new 3 movies.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I don't know if you can do that. You can have one more movie.
Yeah.
The other 2 are just going to negate the other movies. That's the problem when you get too many sequels. You start negating the good movies.
Right. And you're definitely taking away from those. Again, with like the Die Hard series, I haven't even seen the last Die Hard movie because the first one is just unique and singular. And then you've got the second one, which I didn't like so much, but the third one I feel like is a companion piece to the first one. And then everything after that, it just feels like they're making it ridiculous.
If you want to make anything good, you add Samuel L. Jackson. And that's what they did with the third one. And they had it did have a nice companion piece with the brother and everything like that. The fourth one, I mean, it was interesting. They went in a different direction. You had the hackers. You have him as the analog in a digital world, kind of fish out of water story. And you had some good humor in there. I like that as a movie.
Yeah.
But there's no need in watching the last one.
I don't plan on it. I just feel like it's just been driven into the ground. So the Halloween series, it's taken many twists and turns over time. I think it's come back home with this one, and it feels like it's come back home. It's come back around, and it just, I recommend it. I think if you want a good scare this year, I think if you want it done right, you go back to the original. And they did so many things right about hitting all the right buttons with this one. And, I would say it's difficult to compare this one to the original because the original is so much of its time. And as I'm watching it the other day, there's so many goofy things that happen in that movie, and it feels so dated. But yeah, and there's certain things that are just ridiculous. But this one, it's an updated feeling, and it's good to see Jamie Lee Curtis out there kicking ass and flipping the script on the whole.
Yeah, thing. and all of you young guys out there, all you young guys and gals that like horror movies, but your idea of a good horror movie is just a bunch of really loud jump scares. This is what a horror movie is supposed to be.
Exactly.
You maybe have 2 jump scares that are natural. They make sense. They're not forced audio blasts of nothing.
Yep.
There's so many horror movies that come out these days, and I haven't seen The Nun, but I've heard things, and from just the trailers alone, I can tell you it's just probably one big jump scare.
Yeah.
that people think that that's a horror movie. That's not a horror movie because
No.
that's not terrifying. That's just something that makes you jump.
Right. And exactly. And this one definitely plays on the feeling of this could be a, Michael Myers is right on that edge of what is possible. And the fact that this guy could be this crazy and this maniacal, and you could be in a situation like one of the people she gets murdered in the bathroom stall. It's a very vulnerable place, and he's just in there knocking on each door or opening each door to each bathroom stall, and there's just no way out. And it's just, I mean, he's basically a real dude who's just going to kill you if you come. And that gas station sequence is actually really great. I have to go in a minute, but yeah.
I did want to mention I like the fact during that sequence that you just see him like walk in the background. Yep. Or you see in the background of him just coming in and out of a window and beating a guy.
Yeah.
Right. But it's not like center frame in focus. It's like in back there. You're like, oh man. And nobody is doing anything because they don't know what's going on.
Yeah. And it's just so, if you weren't paying attention, because he's just so like silent but deadly, he just can go around.
And he doesn't look there's a lot of people, they look fishy when they're doing things. You're like, oh, what is this guy up to? Doesn't do that. He's just calmly going in, killing someone, calmly leaving. Like there's no need. You don't look at him going, he's up to something. It's more of just nothing. You have no emotion, I like that.
And the audio design too for the gas station sequence was quite good, because you hear the hydraulic drill, like you hear that, and then it stops. Because it's a constant sound in the background while the journalist is pumping gas, and it stops, and then there's like a quick shot of him murdering some dude in the background. And it's just all happening, and it's because it's not in that guy, he's not paying attention, it's not in his consciousness. We're not, but we're subconsciously taking this in that, this guy's about to get murdered because Michael Myers is there now. And even the woman in the car kind of looking over and indicating to him like, Michael Myers is over there, or whatever. She just knows something's going on and indicating to the audience and the characters. But it's good filmmaking.
I liked it.
Cool. I liked it too. I'm glad we can agree.
Well, even with any of the negatives that I have, I still put it in a really solid movie. I gave it a solid B. Now, for a horror movie, a B is a very good score. You're not going to have Citizen Kane level writing or anything like that. So I think B is very, very good.
I'll give it a B plus. I think, or what would that be? 3.5 rows out of 5. So I think that just for the enjoyment factor and the nostalgia factor and the familiarity, and it's like, hey, this is how a slasher movie is done, and this is because this is the icon of slasher movies. So they can fully indulge in that iconography. They can say, this is Mike Myers, this is what he does, we're going to do it true to the script, to the story, to the script, to the character. And I enjoyed that. It's just a very indulgent movie in that sense, and it's also satisfying, but debatably satisfying depending on how you feel about him not being in that basement in the end.
Right.
But
yeah, we'll see what they do with it.
We'll see. And until then, we'll definitely have a live discussion of that too, surely when that comes out. But let's do this again, everybody.
Hey man, anytime. I'm always up for a collab with you, man.
And I appreciate that. This is always fun to talk, and I'm sure we can talk for days and days about this.
Yeah, but I mean, sometime we should just have a day where we just turn the live stream on and just talk and not really worry about what the subject is. We'll just wander around.
It'll be good. I'm sure. Yeah, like it'll be a marathon. People can come and go as they please. I'm sure we'll touch upon everything from Citizen Kane to Halloween, like we did today.
Yeah.
So,
I'll get some snacks, have some drinks ready, and we'll just go.
Cheers to that. Well, thank you, Koricon. Everybody, if you want to subscribe to Koricon, I put some links down there in the description. You guys can follow him on Twitter. You guys know where I'm at on Twitter and Instagram. And go see Halloween if you want to see a good, fun, have a good time, eat a lot of popcorn, and maybe throw up in your popcorn bucket a couple times.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because the murders are pretty grisly. So thanks for joining us, and I will see you next time.
Bye!
Bye. Yeah. Bye, guys.
It's not working. Freezing.
Okay. That's good. I'll just play the Halloween theme music.
Do it.
Is it frozen?
It's windowing.
That's so funny.
It's doing the little color wheel.
Yeah.